Hello students, welcome to week 7 for COM 505. This week we are focusing on culture and looking at theories that relate to that concept. In our weekly agenda, we are reading chapter 11. We're watching one video related to communication accommodation theory, as well as completing discussion board number 7 by Friday, with our reply posts due on Sunday, and our annotated bibliography for our critical assignment is due on Sunday as well. You'll see in the weekly agenda that the weekly objectives that we are completing 3 things this week. We're discussing theories that relate to communication and culture. We are also examining the role of communication in the creation and maintenance of culture, as well as reviewing the implications of culture that promote intercultural competence, adaptation, change, and negotiation within communication. This relates to objectives 1.2, 2.1, and 3.1 in our course syllabus. Discussion number 7 asks you to answer some questions related to communication accommodation theory, also known as CAT. In this particular theory, which we'll learn about in the lecture and watch a video about this week, you'll see how we accommodate our communication to keep communicative interactions going with one another, and maybe to keep a conversation going in ways that we would not always do with those particular people we are interacting with. So this particular discussion relies on that and asks you to think about some of those situations in which you may accommodate your communication. Our annotated bibliography is due this week. Our annotated bibliography will allow me to see the sources that you're planning on using in your literature review for your critical assignment, which is due in week 8. So by looking at your annotated bibliography on 10 of your sources, I can provide you with specific feedback that will help you in developing your themes for your literature review, as well as to determine if the sources you have really fit with what the aim and the scope of your study is that you're preparing for your research proposal. So in this assignment, you'll need to compile at least 10 academic sources, that's scholarly articles, books, academic or government websites that are related directly to your critical assignment topic. In that, you'll provide a 2 to 3 paragraph annotation for each source. This annotation is a brief summary of the source and it providing its relevance to the critical assignment. That's what I'll be spending the most time looking at. You'll construct this annotated bibliography in APA format. If you've never completed an annotated bibliography before, that's completely fine. There are 2 videos in the Blackboard module that will help you have specific instructions on how to format this for APA, as well as what solid and exemplary annotations look like in an annotated bibliography. Most particularly, this assignment is time consuming. It's going to take a significant amount of time, upwards of 2 to 3 hours, if not more, to complete. You have to find the 10 sources, and then you have to write about 3 paragraphs related to those sources after you've read those sources and the information in those sources. So do keep that in mind. If you have any questions, please reach out. This week we are looking at communication accommodation theory. This was developed by Howard Giles. Communication accommodation is a theory which emphasizes the adjustments that people make while communicating. Howard Giles was a professor of communication in a UC school here in California. He developed this theory, which according to him is trying to put emphasis or minimizing the social differences between others when we interact, and the factors that lead to accommodating activity or adjustments that can be made through verbal communications, gestures, or nonverbal communication as well. This theory evolved from speech accommodation adjustment theory, which demonstrates the value of psychological concepts to understand the dynamics of speech. Communication accommodation theory really elaborates on the human tendency to adjust our behaviors while we are interacting. The reason behind our behavior adjustment is explained through the control of social differences or cultural differences between the interactants. So we often see that maybe culturally or socially that we may be communicating different if we're from different regions of the U.S., different countries, different cultures. So people will accommodate their communicative activities to get approval and set a positive image in the front of the person they're communicating with. The environment in which they are interacting also impacts communication behavior. There are 2 ways that this process is explained. Convergence is a process that is the first way that we do this, where people tend to adapt their communication characteristics to reduce social differences. And then divergent is the process that contradicts the method of adaptation, where the context of the individual emphasizes on the social difference and the nonverbal differences between the 2 people communicating. These 2 processes are usually dependent on the characteristics of the communicative situation itself. People typically accommodate their communication while interacting with the person who has higher standards, different cultures, or they believe that they need to accommodate how they're communicating in order to keep that relationship going or the conversation going. If you're in a job interview, things like that. Communication accommodation theory is influenced by social psychology as well as cultural assumptions, and it's really interesting to explore and look at it. We do this all the time. If you're interacting with your boss, you're going to speak differently to them than you'll be interacting with a friend versus a mother or a grandparent or something like that. So I want you to spend some time looking at this theory, seeing how it fits along the line with many different things within communication, and working on your annotated bibliography. So don't forget, your annotated bibliography is due on Sunday, as well as discussion board number 7 is due on Friday with your reply post on Sunday. We're watching one video and we are reading chapter 11. We should also be working on our critical assignment, which is due on Friday of week 8. If you have any questions, let me know. I look forward to interacting with you. God bless.